Welcome to a Backpacker's Notes about China.
History.
Today we will talk about Changcheng, or the Great Wall of China. A few years back, when I was living in Beijing, I had a very cool hobby. On weekends, I'd like to go to the countryside around Beijing to go hiking. And one of the great places to go hiking is the Great Wall. There are some very touristic places on the Great Wall like Mutianyu or Badaling, but there are also some very cool places where nature takes back the wall and you can go hiking there for hours and hours. But what are a few facts that you need to know when you go to visit the Great Wall? The Great Wall of China is 21,196 kilometers long. And yes, that is very impressive, but when people tell you you can see it from space, that's definitely not true, because even though the wall is amazingly long, it's not very wide, just a few meters. A third of the Great Wall has vanished without trace. I once went hiking at an area where the Great Wall should have been, and I didn't find it, but in the end there were some broken stones on the ground, and we were quite sure they were actually what was left over from the Great Wall. It's not very easy to say how old the Great Wall actually is. There are parts where the Great Wall is pretty old because Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, around 200 years BC, gave the order to construct the wall to protect China from the Mongolians. But there are also parts of the Great Wall, like the one tourists usually visit north of Beijing, that were only built during the Ming Dynasty. According to legend, there were many bodies buried under the wall. This is not true. Of course, people knew how to construct the wall and they wanted it to last for a long time, so they were smart enough to know if you bury bodies underneath it, it's not gonna last so long. At some places you can really see the white color in between the stones because they used glutinous rice flour in between the stones to keep them together, and it's like a really good glue. And at some places arsenic was used to create a poisonous wall. Very few battles actually happened at the Great Wall. And people describe the Great Wall as a dragon that's protecting a pearl. So the dragon is the wall that goes like a dragon or like a snake over the mountains, and it's protecting the pearl that's Beijing in the end. I was saying before that no bodies were buried inside the Great Wall, but there is one very famous story that says I'm wrong, and that is the story about Meng Jiangnu. Meng Jiangnu had a husband called Fan Xiliang, and when the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, ordered the construction of the Great Wall, Fan Xiliang was forced to work on the construction of the Great Wall. Before Fan Xiliang went to work on the Great Wall, his wife broke a hairpin, a jade hairpin, into two pieces and gave half of it to her husband. Meng Jiangnu waited for the return of her husband for over 5 years. Then she had a nightmare. She dreamed that she could hear her husband yelling "cold" and "cold" all the time. So Meng Jiangnu decided to go looking for her husband. When she finally reached the place where her husband was working on the construction site, workers told her that her husband died there and he was buried under the Great Wall. Hearing the bad news,
she started crying. She started crying day and night, and she cried so much that finally the wall fell down. And under the broken wall she found her husband's body. The emperor heard of the destruction of the Great Wall, and he asked Meng Jianhu to be punished. But when the emperor saw the woman, he fell in love with her, and he asked her to marry him. Meng Jianhu said she would agree to marry the emperor if her husband gets a proper funeral. The emperor agreed, and after the funeral, Meng Jiannu went to the Bohai Sea, where she jumped into the water and drowned.